Hey, it's 10:30, and we got real cross currents of conflicting data on the global growth story that are affecting emerging. They're affecting global markets. This morning, Bundesbank had raised the German 2010 GDP forecast to 3% from 1.9. So second half of the year does continue to look very strong. You may remember we got a very strong second quarter print out of Germany, which is the best in, I don't know, 5 quarters, but year-over-year numbers that they hadn't seen in a long time. They expect that trend to normalize, and they expect that to get certainly more along normal trend line growth next year. But what they've said is there is not double-digit recession fears in Europe, and that in fact the strongest economy and the largest economy in Europe is alive and well. Meanwhile, we get Philly Fed today, and that number's terrible, and that really took the market down. Although ultimately, we've seen markets recover a bit. Emerging markets have kind of traded in sympathy. So we've actually seen Latin America pull back a little bit, but is definitely outperforming what we're seeing in the West here. Brazil's down about 63 bips. The currency's about 60 bips weaker. So, if you're investing today in Brazil on the local level, you're down about 1.2%, and that's about where you are in other parts of Latin America, a little better in Mexico, a little better in Chile. But as the commodity trade's getting a little pressure from a stronger dollar today, again, that dollar pressure is coming from a perceived flight to quality or just a move more towards dollar assets. Dixie was stronger this morning, and I think we are getting some weakening on the economic data, but go back to our commodity call here. Crude, more or less flat, gold more or less flat, but we're seeing very good interest from investors across the board in the commodity space, and this type of global growth story continues to make people feel that there's a whole lot of value in the underlying commodity names. I definitely do. As I look at the deflation inflation debate, again, I go to inflation concerns that exist everywhere in the emerging world where inflation is a problem, and I say, definitely not a deflationary environment, and in fact, ultimately, inflation is something that really is a problem for the consumer in emerging. The stronger currencies, which have been a great trade, and a lot of the tightening on the local currency markets is something that ultimately is something to watch, and something I think central banks, especially in places like Brazil, Turkey, South Africa, are going to continue to watch, and I encourage you to continue to watch that move too. Thanks.